Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Okay. Start with some simple words of welcome this evening. Kine matov, umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad.
All right, and this is a round, so if you want to sing it as a round with us, please bring it in your voices. All right, we have some good singers tonight, I can see that. Kine matov, umanaim, shevet achim gam yachad. Keep singing. So if you'll turn in your prayer books to, where are we there?
Page 22.
Yeah.
The indented Hebrew there.
Here we are. The song for the Shabbat, the Psalm for Shabbat, Psalm 92. And we stay right there. Good. Tzadika Tamar. Here we go. Tzadika Tamar Yifrach Ke'eres Balanon Yizkeh Shetulim Bebeit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu Yafrihu Od Yenuvun Beseva Beshenim Verananim Iyu Ehagi Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri Velo Avatambo.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is good to be here together. We just sang the words, the righteous bloom like a date palm. They thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in the courts of our God. The date palm bends with the wind, and the cedar is stiff and tall and straight. It's some of the best wood to build with in the Middle East, sort of a symbol of strength and solidness solidness. Is that a word?
Yes.
Words that are made, a symbol of words that I make up on the spot. And the date palm is flexible and offers sustenance with sweet fruits. So I love this beautiful image of what a righteous person is, right? They are flexible and they are solid, and maybe they're a little sweet as well. So something to think about as we enter into this Shabbat, celebrating Shabbat, one of the second, penultimate Shabbat of the year here this evening. And something that's a little bit sweet and definitely righteous is a number of our college students are home visiting their families, and so we welcome you home. And not only do we welcome you home, but we want to bring you up here and totally embarrass you in front of your friends, your family, and your community.
Perfect timing,
to have you. Jacobs, come on up. And if you are home from college or you're home from being away after a little while, invite you to just come on up and lead us in candlelighting and Kiddush. We promise we won't make this too much of a little Jewish test here. You got this. But welcome home. We're so thrilled to have you here with us tonight. We're on page 2, or 120.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We'll continue with Kiddush on page 5 or 123. Who wants this? Come on. Don't be bashful. I'll lead it with you here. You all can take a cup of juice. Here you go. Canter. Already got some. There you go. Oh, we're like almost enough. All right. All right, here. Come. Yeah, ready? 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava u'veratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. L'chaim, welcome home. Enjoy your break. Hopefully it's restful.
Well, we have a celebration. Tonight we are celebrating our dear friend David Gaskell's 80th birthday. So, there you are. Hi. Stay there for a bit. I'm going to extol your virtues and tell a little bit about you, and then I'll have you come up with your family. So, David is one of the most passionate people you will ever meet. I think most of you already know that. He was born in Brooklyn and grew up in Bayside, Queens, and you won't be surprised to hear that he was a bit of a troublemaker as a kid. He remembers causing an explosion in his chemistry lab in junior high. Thankfully, no one was hurt too badly. Not too much into the rigors of academics. David was much more of an artist, a musician, and a free spirit. His most fond memory from high school was playing trumpet in the high school concert band. There were 120 kids in the band, and being part of that huge sound blew David's mind. He absolutely loved it, and the trumpet playing was surely a precursor to his talent as a shofar blower. It was in his future. David attended City College of New York, starting at age 16. It took him 6.5 years to graduate, though, because he took time off to travel across the country with a friend in a converted delivery truck. More about that in a moment. So while at City College, David joined the Alpha chapter of Tau Delta Phi, thank you, fraternity, and it was there that he met his first wife, Susan, in 1964. They met at a party, which they left after about 20 minutes, and they went for a walk around the city, and about an hour into their conversation, they were already discussing how many children they would have together, and David said he wanted 12 kids, which somehow didn't scare Susan off. It was definitely a match made in heaven. In 1965, while on his delivery truck adventure to the West Coast, David found out from a long-distance call to his friend's parents that he had been drafted. And so his friend dropped him off at the airport in Death Valley, and he hightailed it back to New York. David desperately wanted to finish college and, if possible, not to end up in Vietnam. So he enlisted in a Marine Corps Reserve unit, and there he found himself working on 4 fighter bomb aircrafts and became close friends with his fellow reservists who, like him, were mostly cops and firemen. So he worked while in the Marines and also became a competition shooter and a police firearms instructor, for which he gained a wall full of medals and awards. David and Susan were married on July 30th, 1967. After a lot of back and forth with Susan's parents about where and when the wedding would be, they finally decided to elope. A few years later, they bought another converted delivery truck and this one was nicer, I hear. So more like, more up class. And they traveled back across the country to California. And so they found themselves here in Northern California, where their son PJ was born in 1976. David and Susan were not affiliated with any type of religion at the time, but when PJ was 9, Susan asked David about having a bar mitzvah for him. And David said, of course. And that started the Gaskells' wonderful relationship with Beth Am. They joined in 1985. PJ enrolled in Sunday program, and David and Susan became quite involved. Susan became a beloved and dedicated teacher in our Hebrew program and with our 5th graders. And I've heard so many Beth Am members say what a wonderful person Susan was. Such a passionate life surely has many joys and sorrows. David's beloved Susan died in 1999 after contracting HIV from a blood transfusion in 1982. This was such a major blow, not just to David and PJ, but to the entire Beth Am community. David, always grabbing life by the horns, became more and more active at Beth Am, serving in many leadership roles. He served on the board and as Beth Am president for 10 years, and David has been singing with our choir, for 36 years. That's probably the longest of anybody in the choir, although I'm not sure, which he absolutely loves. But David's most cherished role at Beth Am has been as a teacher of Torah. Over the years, David has taught over 250 students. He has become a master Torah chanter and scholar. A while back, I saw David at Beth Am, and he had this big grin on his face. "What's up?" I asked. And he said, "I successfully chanted through the entire Torah," he proudly said. He was beaming with joy. What a beautiful and amazing feat indeed. And David recalls attending B'nai Mitzvah services of his students and cavelling over their achievements. So in 2002, David met his beloved Peg at the Beth Am Silomar weekend. Peg was not a Beth Am member at the time, but her mother had asked her to come along with her, and so she agreed. David describes standing next to Peg during Havdalah, his arm around her waist and hers around him, and he felt an instant attraction to her. After Havdalah had ended, the circle dispersed, and the two of them stayed arm in arm, just standing there holding each other. After about 30 seconds, Peg's mother, Eileen, said, "Oh, David, have you met my daughter, Peg?" And that started their beautiful love story. They were married September 18th, 2005, and just celebrated their 18th wedding anniversary. Mazel tov. David, you are such an extraordinary person. You have so many passions, and you always follow your heart. It's an honor to call you up here now with your family to receive a blessing. Please come on up. PJ, Aviva, Soren, Liam, Phil, Jennifer, Violet, and of course, Peg. Come on up, and David as well. And look at this beautiful family. Okay, so David, you're going to come right over here, and if everybody can put their hands on, just kind of see if you could put your hands up on his shoulders. Everybody kind of gather around. Put your hands on his shoulders. All right, so first in Hebrew. Mishaberach Eloheinu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah hu yivarech et David HaSandlar. שעלה היום לכבוד המקום, לכבוד השבת ולכבוד הקהל. הקדוש ברוך הוא יברך אותו וכל בני משפחתו וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם. כל ישראל לך ונאמר, Amen. Misha Berach, eternal one of blessing, grant blessings and joy to our dear David, who comes before us today to celebrate this milestone birthday, 80 wonderful years of passion, love, and study. May he continue to share in many more smachot with his beautiful wife, family, and community for many, many years to come. Ad mea ve'esrim, in good health until 120. So now we're going to, well, in good health. In good health. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And may God lift up God's face to yours and grant you peace for a long life of health and happiness. And may we all say Amen. And Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov, Simin Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. Come on. Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simin Tov. Yehelanu, Yehelanu.
Congratulations, guys. It's nice that
We will continue our service from one joyous moment to another. Each week we look forward with joy to Shabbat. Whatever is going on in our lives, we welcome Shabbat as if it were a bride. Our beloved Shabbat comes to greet us, to comfort us, to console us, to bring joy and calm and peace into our lives. Lecha Dodi is on page 20 or 138. Rise and face the entrance for verse 9. Ateret Bala Gam Besimcha page 28, we continue with the Baruch Hu, our prayer of community. It's one of very few prayers that require a minyan, a quorum of 10 Jews of B'nai Mitzvah age in order to say and sing this prayer out loud. And so we gather as our community tonight, page 28 or 146. Continue with this meditation before words of Shema. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace. Gather us in peace. As you lead us to your name. As you lead us to your name. And we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes. Teach us how to live. Teach us how to live. Fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Oh, we will know that you are one.
Words of Shema, page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu,
seated. Continue on page 36 or 154, words of Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. On page 40, we sing our song of freedom and redemption, words of Micha Mocha.
כיפת אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Sing the words of Hashkivenu together.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom,
Shalom,
v'hamidenu shalmenu, v'chayenu
you're able, I invite you to rise on page 46.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha Oh, eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oh, Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh HaKol V'Zocher Chastei Avot Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem Le'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai Mechayeh Kol Atah Rav Lehoshia Mashiv HaRuach Morid HaGashem Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim Umatir Asurim Umekayem Emunato Rishenei Afar Michamocha Bal Givurot O Mido Melach Melech Meimit Umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hakol Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh U'kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Your name is holy, and those who are holy bless you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. page 339. The entire world is but a narrow bridge. The most important thing is not to be afraid and to cross the bridge anyway. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod. Kol haolam hu gesher tzar. Kol haolam kulo gesher tzar meod. Kol haolam hu gesher. Walk along this very narrow bridge, I will not be afraid, knowing you are with me. As I walk along this very narrow bridge, I will not be afraid, knowing you are near.
This test had lasted for weeks now, or maybe it was even months, when things finally came to a head. His brothers had returned, now with their brother Benjamin with them, as he'd requested. And just as he'd planned, the test continued. It hadn't been easy toying with his brothers all this time, and it certainly took its toll on him. He'd often break down and weep when he was alone and no one could see. But when he thought back on what they had done to him when they were younger, it seemed the least they deserved. This time he was about to take Benjamin prisoner, but he hadn't been prepared for what happened next. His brothers surprised him. Judah stepped forward and made an impassioned plea to save his brother. He implored Joseph, for the sake of their father, for the sake of their dead brother, to take him, Judah, instead of Benjamin. Joseph hadn't been prepared for Judah's selflessness, for his insistence that he and his brothers would all trade their own lives to spare their youngest brother, to guard the delicate heart of their father, who couldn't bear to lose another son of his beloved Rachel. It was in this climactic moment that something shifted within Joseph. Joseph could no longer restrain himself before all his attendants, so he cried out, "Vayikra, send everyone away from me," so that no one else was there when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. He gave voice to a loud wail, "Vayiten et kolo bivchi," a cry so loud that the Egyptians heard all the way in Pharaoh's palace. Joseph then said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father really alive?" Initially, his brothers, when they realized that it is, in fact, Joseph before whom they now stand, the very same Joseph who they had plotted to kill, threw into a pit, who they sold into slavery, and then lied to their father that he had been murdered by a wild beast, that very same Joseph now stood before them with their lives in his hands. They surely expected punishment and retribution, a moment of reckoning for their sins. And indeed, few would fault Joseph for exacting revenge on his brothers for what they'd done. But in this moment, something changes for all of them. Their display of regret for what they had done to Joseph, for the pain that they had caused their father, for the fragility it caused him, from that moment on, seems to affect Joseph deeply. When they begin to shy away from him, he tries to ease their fears and says to them, "Come, draw near to me." And as they draw near, he continues, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold to Egypt. And now don't be troubled. Don't be distressed because you sold me here, for it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." Rabbi Denise Egger explains that in this moment, Joseph reveals his true self, his true identity. Joseph reconnects with his past not only by his brother's presence, but inside himself to claim his place in his family. His revelation, she says, represents reconciliation of self, of true identity. Rashi imagines Joseph feeling his brother's shame in this moment, and so imagines him calling to them with care and connection. In this moment, it seems that Joseph's crying out, his wailing before his brothers, unlocks something deep within him and sets the possibility of their reconciliation into motion. He cries out, this time not by himself in quiet sobs, but in front of his brothers, from whom he was still in hiding up to this moment. So loudly and so forcefully does he call out, does he cry out, that it's heard all the way over in Pharaoh's palace. Something happens when we let go, when we release something deep within us, when we admit out loud, I am not okay, we are not okay. There is an emotional honesty that comes with this kind of crying out that makes us and those around us reckon with those feelings and emotion. It can set change into motion. Reading ahead in the Torah in just a couple of weeks, we begin the Exodus narrative in Parshat Shemot. We fast forward many generations to the rise of a Pharaoh who did not know the reputation of Joseph, and who, seeing the proliferation of the Israelites and fearing their numbers, forced them into harsh slavery. Finally, many years later, after suffering the cruelty and pain of slavery in silent agony, the Israelites, groaning under bondage, cried out, Vayizaku, and their cry for help from the bondage rose up to God. God heard their moaning, and God remembered the covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. God looked upon the Israelites, and God took notice of them. The 16th century Italian commentator Sforno explains that they cried out of frustration about their miserable fate and their enslavement. A similar expression for venting such feelings of frustration occurs in the book of Isaiah. Howl, O gate, cry out, Zaki, cry out, O city. Another commentator, the Sfat Emet, suggests that the Israelites cry out in this moment because they finally become aware of their misfortune, in particular aware of living their lives in exile, and begin to cry out. Immediately after we see the Israelites crying out to God, and God hearing these anguished cries, we see God calling to Moses from the burning bush, setting him off on a mission to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. The Israelites crying out to God is the action that sets the entire Exodus, this great story of freedom and redemption, sets it all into motion. It is important to note that the verbs used for crying or wailing in these two stories are different. Joseph cries out, vayikra, and then gives voice to a loud wail or weeping, vayiten et kolo bivchi. Vayikra, to cry out or call out, is also the call of commissioning, as God calls out to Moses from the burning bush, or calls out instructing him in the laws of sacrifice at the beginning of the book of Leviticus, a book known in Hebrew as Vayikra, God called to Moses. Vayikra also suggests a call in the midst of a profound encounter. But the Israelites crying out is different. They groan and cry out, Vayizaku. While this verb also means to call out or cry out, in certain places in the Tanakh, it also means to assemble or join together. But za'ak is a cry of distress, a proclamation, sort of a primal scream. If vayikra is used to call to something or someone, vayizaku might be the voicing of a need to escape from something. It's often used in connection to distress, as in the story of Esther, in which Mordechai, after learning of Haman's decree to kill the Jews of Shushan, tears his clothes, puts on sackcloth and ashes, then goes through the city crying out, vayizak, loudly and bitterly. So many of us are at a point where we need to call out, cry out. We are tired. We are worried. We are heartsick. As Jews, as human beings, we cannot bear any more death of our brothers and sisters in Israel, of innocent Palestinians caught with nowhere to go by their own leaders who see their lives as expendable. We are exhausted from the rise of hatred directed towards us for simply being who we are, for being, period. And so we continue to cry out with every fiber of our being to anyone who will listen, to anyone who can effect change. Politicians in the US, Israeli politicians, our friends, our neighbors. When we cry out, we allow ourselves to release those pent-up emotions, to give voice to the truth and values we hold most deeply. Just as Isaiah calls us, cry out, kara, with a full throat, without restraint. Raise your voice like a ram's horn. To call out, to cry out, can be the catalyst that sets momentous change into motion. Shabbat Shalom.
With Rabbi Wattenmaker's sermon in mind, we offer our cry, our prayer, as we do every Shabbat for those in need of healing. The Bethlehem community on this Shabbat specifically is praying for Ginny Anderson, Lauren Bone, Mark Cohn, Abigail Covert, Diane Denenberg, Toby Ellman, Susan Farber, Nancy Fogel, Marty Gelman, Selena Glader, Sarah Guido, Barbara Heiken, Moritz Huppert, Rudy Huppert, Aaron Levinson, Sophia Palisban, Harvey Rabin, Vonnie Ralston, Bobby Rosenkrantz, Nat Rubin, David Baruch Ben Simona, and Julie Sutcliffe. If you're offering prayers for healing for anyone, I invite you to share their name out loud at this time. Lord, 253.
Mi shebeirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
As a community, we continue to pray for all Israelis that are continue to be held captive in Gaza. Our God, the one who raised Joseph up from the pit, be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in time of trouble. Send complete rescue and full redemption to all those held captive by the enemy. Strengthen their spirit and bring them our prayers that they be protected from all harm. Implant understanding in the heart of the enemy that they may return the captives in wholeness of body and spirit. Grant wisdom to the Israeli Defense Forces that they may secure freedom for the captives without loss of life. Grant strength of spirit and courage of heart to all the sons and daughters of Abraham and Sarah and Hagar to release bonds of captivity and allow us to all live in freedom. As the psalmist said, they shall call upon me and I will answer them. I will be with them in distress. I will rescue them and honor them. If you're able, I invite you to once again rise, the middle of 282.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
You can have a seat. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude our service. One, we would encourage everyone who's here in person to join us in the social hall to celebrate David and his 80th birthday for some schmoozing and cake after the service. But all of you are here for our college Shabbat. The dinner is in the conference room, so we can get you cake, I promise, as well. So for our college students, Shabbat dinner is in the conference room. But for everyone else here in person, please join us in the social hall for celebration. As you know, at Beth Am, we continue to collect money for important organizations that are doing the work of healing the world, of justice and tzedek. This month we are collecting for a really important organization, the Emergency Fund from the NIF, the New Israel Fund, a terrific organization that is working to provide aid to Israelis, both Jewish and Arab, who have been affected by the attacks on October 7th, advocating for immediate release of the hostages, safeguarding human and civil rights in the land of Israel and the West Bank, and working to advance a shared, peaceful future for everyone in Israel. I really love the New Israel Fund, specifically because what I think they do is they support the organizations on the ground that are trying to build peace and trying to build harmony. They care about the work. So if that's something that inspires you, I ask you to be as generous as possible in this season of giving. Whether it's in our tzedakah box with a check or cash, whether you're streaming at Beth-Am on Venmo or donations on the Beth-Am webpage. Finally, to help out our facilities team by returning your Sidurim, your prayer books after services. We turn to the prayer of memory, Kaddish, on page 294. If I read the name of your loved one, I invite you to rise in his or her honor or their honor, and then we'll rise as one community to say the words of Kaddish together. In this period of Shloshim, the 30 days since passing, the Beth-Am community remembers Sandra Newell-Trunser, Lori Ziegler, Sylvia Kramer, Mikhail Schwartzman, J. Arnold Levine, Doris Reiner, Joyce Moser, Judy Eisner, Rabbi Lori Phillips, and Sylvia Kramer. In this period of Yartzeit, the anniversary of death, we remember with love Marco Aguado, Timmy Baranoff, Gerald Birdstein, Lee Bienenstock, Seymour Birnbaum, Sylvan Blumenson, Dolores Borowitz, Edward Frank Carr, Suzanne Chassé, Gary Citrin, Dorothy Citrin, David Feldman, Irving Finkler, Sylvia Fisher, Heather Frankel, Sheldon Friedman, Molly Ginsberg, Isaac Gordon, Donna Gottdiner, Tamara Grelk, Maurice Haberman, Harriet Harris, Sylvia Hurst, Jim Hildebrand, Marion Holtzman, Joseph Hyman, Paula Losky, Jessel Jacobs, Jerry Katz, Laura Kirks, Robert Kraus, Edna Kirsch Lebensbaum, Rose Leibowitz, Stanley Levins, Maria Levittman, Bert Levitt, Jerome Lips, Albert Littman, George McLeod, Edward I. Menkoff, Jeffrey Merriman, Celia Michelin, Eric M. Netter, Celia Panzer, Ralph Rabin, Yevgeny Reznikov, Sue Ross, Sophie Rothblatt, Harvey Rubenstein, Jack Ruby, Sarah Scholnick, Arnold Seidel, Boris Shkolnikov, Marcia Spall, Samuel Silberman, Craig Smith, Lillian Steinberg, Benjamin Strelo, Dennis Weintraub, and Sally Whitna. If you're thinking of someone whose name I did not read, potentially someone who's passed away in the past year, or this is also a yahrzeit, I invite you to rise and share their name out loud. In this period of Shloshim, the Reformed Jewish world continues to remember Rabbi David Ellenson. We say the words of Kaddish together. I invite everyone to rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divera kirute bi'amlich malchute, be'chayechon u'vyomechon, chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv bi'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'alam ulmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithale v'yithalal shemei d'kusha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata, tush bechata b'nechemata, damiram bi'ama b'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, b'chaim aleinu bi'al kol Yisrael, b'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu bi'al kol Yisrael, b'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all of Israel, and to all the world, to which we say, Amen. I love this day. This is one of my favorite days of the year. It's one of my favorite days of the year because the days are starting to get longer. It might not feel that. You might feel that it's still dark and cold, but December 22nd, the solstice is past us. Before long, the daffodils will bloom. Rabbi Winemaker will lead a Passover Seder.
Somewhere.
The Giants will kick off their season, losing to the Mets, and everything will be all right. Let's sing together our song of optimism, a different type of optimism, rather an eternal hope for peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu.
Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam shalom. Salam aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam shalom. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu. Od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam.
Join with me.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Say hi to somebody new on the way out.
Shabbat shalom.
College students in the conference room.